There was a time when I believed trading was about numbers, charts, indicators, and the perfect strategy. But the truth? Trading was never just about numbers. It was about me, my fears, my greed, my discipline, or the lack of it. I still remember that night. It was 2:37 a.m. My screen was glowing red. Every candle that dropped felt like a punch to the gut. I had just lost 40% of my account, not because the market was unfair, but because I couldn't stop myself from chasing. I thought I could outsmart the market. But the market doesn't need to be smart. It just needs to be patient. That was 15 years ago. Since then, I've watched traders come and go, thousands of them. Some brilliant, some reckless, all of them human. And every single one of them walked the same painful path, from confidence to collapse, from despair to discipline. If you're watching this, maybe you're in that phase too. Maybe you've blown an account. Maybe you've taken a trade that still haunts you. Or maybe you're just tired. Tired of being so close to winning, yet never quite making it. This video isn't about quick fixes or miracle strategies. It's about the real journey, the one every trader must walk through before success even becomes possible. Because before you can master the market, you must master yourself. So today, I'm going to take you through that journey. The same road I walked, the same lessons I paid for, with time, money, and pain. From the first moment of failure to the quiet understanding of what trading really means. It's not a roadmap. It's not a shortcut. It's the truth, raw, unfiltered, and maybe exactly what you need to hear right now.
When I first started trading, I thought I was ready for anything. I had read the books, watched the videos, studied technical analysis until my eyes burned. I knew what a candlestick was, what RSI meant, and I could quote trading quotes like they were gospel. Cut your losses short, let your profits run. It sounded easy, until it wasn't. My first account was small, just a few $1,000s I'd saved up from my job. I told myself it was risk capital, but deep down, it was more than that. It was pride. It was proof that I could make something happen, that I could beat the system everyone else failed at. At first, everything worked. The market was kind, and my timing, or maybe my luck, was perfect. A few trades went well, and suddenly I felt unstoppable. I started increasing my position sizes. I ignored my stop losses. I told myself, this is how real traders do it. You have to take risks to win big. But the market has a way of humbling you. Within weeks, I watched my early profits vanish. Then my capital started to shrink. Every loss felt personal, like the market was mocking me. So I did what so many beginners do. I doubled down. I tried to win it all back in one trade. That's when the spiral began. Every chart I opened felt like a battlefield. Every tick against me felt like judgment. I wasn't trading anymore. I was gambling with emotion. I stopped following my plan. I stopped thinking clearly. I just wanted to be right. One night after a brutal losing streak, I stared at my screen and saw my balance at almost zero. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding. And in that silence, something broke. Not just my account, my illusion. The illusion that trading was about being smart, about finding the perfect setup, or about outsmarting the market. I realized something that night. The market doesn't care who you are. It doesn't reward effort. It doesn't punish ego. It simply reflects your inner state, your discipline, your patience, your humility. That was the night I understood. The real enemy wasn't the market. It was me. It took me years to truly accept that. But that moment, staring at a nearly empty account, was the beginning. Because every trader's story starts the same way, with a dream of success and a painful awakening that success won't come easy.
Losing that first account wasn't just about the money. It was about identity. For months, I had tied my worth to my trades. Every green candle meant validation. Every red one meant failure. When I blew up that account, it felt like I had blown up. But instead of stopping, I did what most traders do. I came back too soon. I told myself, I just need more capital. I've learned my lesson. But the truth was, I hadn't learned anything. I hadn't taken time to reflect, to understand my mistakes, or to change my mindset. I was chasing revenge, not growth. So I funded another account, and then another. Each time I thought I was smarter. Each time I was wrong. The cycle was brutal. Small wins, growing confidence, over-leverage, one bad trade, and boom, everything gone. It became an emotional roller coaster. I'd wake up excited, go to bed defeated. My relationships suffered. My health declined. I stopped going out with friends. I lied to people about how great trading was going. But inside, I was drowning. I remember one trade in particular, Euro USD, non-farm payroll day. I had analyzed it perfectly. The setup looked flawless. I went in heavy. Too heavy. The data came out slightly off expectations. The market spiked in my direction for 2 seconds, then reversed violently. I froze. I couldn't close. I watched thousands vanish in minutes. My hands went numb. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't the first time I had lost money, but something about that trade broke me. It wasn't just the loss. It was realizing I was addicted. Addicted to the thrill, the hope, the constant cycle of losing and trying to fix it. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, asking myself, why am I doing this? Was it greed? Pride? The desire to prove something to someone? And that's when I realized I had never truly respected the market. I treated it like a slot machine, not a profession. I traded for excitement, not for consistency. I wanted quick success, not mastery. The market doesn't reward that mindset. It destroys it. I was forced to step back, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. I was out of money, out of energy, out of confidence. And for the first time in years, I did something I should have done long ago. I stopped trading. It wasn't a surrender. It was survival. I started to study myself more than the charts. Why did I panic? Why did I break my rules? Why did I keep repeating the same patterns? That period was dark. I questioned if I was meant for this. Maybe I just wasn't cut out to be a trader. But deep down, something in me refused to quit. I didn't want to walk away defeated. Not like this. That's when I understood a painful truth. Success in trading doesn't start when you win. It starts when you stop losing the same way. That realization became the seed of my comeback. The decision to stop trading wasn't easy. It felt like giving up on everything I had dreamed about. But deep down, I knew it was the only way to break the cycle. I spent the next few months doing something I had never done before. Nothing. No charts, no trades, no setups. Just reflection. I went back through every journal entry, every statement, every emotional meltdown I had documented, and began to see the pattern clearly for the first time. It wasn't the market that beat me. It was me. My impatience, my ego, my fear of missing out, my obsession with being right instead of being profitable. I realized I had never really built a trading system. I had built a collection of random strategies, things that worked for others but never truly fit my psychology. So this time, I decided to start over, from the ground up. No indicators, no complicated setups, just raw price action. I started studying market structure, liquidity zones, volume, and order flow. But more importantly, I studied myself, my triggers, emotions, and reactions. I tracked how I felt before taking a trade, not just after. Slowly, the fog began to lift. Trading wasn't about predicting, it was about adapting. It wasn't about perfection, it was about discipline. One day, I came across a quote that stuck with me. Trading is the art of being wrong gracefully. That hit deep, because that was my biggest flaw. I couldn't accept being wrong. So I built a new rule. My first job as a trader isn't to win, it's to manage being wrong. I focused on risk management like my life depended on it, because it did. I limited my risk per trade to 1%. I stopped looking for home runs and started aiming for survival. I treated every loss as data, not defeat. For the first time, trading started to feel different. I no longer chased every move. I waited. I observed. I learned to be bored, and that boredom became powerful. The real turning point came during a slow week in the market. There was no big news, no strong momentum, just quiet consolidation. Old me would have forced trades out of boredom, but that week I did nothing. When the breakout finally came, I was ready, not emotionally desperate, but strategically prepared. I placed one trade, followed my plan to the letter, and watched it unfold. It wasn't a huge profit, but it was clean, controlled, professional. That one trade didn't change my account, but it changed me. It was the first time I felt in sync with the market, not at war with it. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about mastery. I started to understand that trading wasn't a destination. It was a mirror, reflecting who I was inside. And the market, as always, was my greatest teacher. That was the day I promised myself something simple but powerful. From now on, I will not try to conquer the market. I will conquer myself. That mindset became my foundation, the shift that turned years of chaos into the start of consistency. It wasn't about getting rich fast anymore. It was about building something real, something sustainable. And that's when the real journey began. Once I had made peace with my past failures, I knew rebuilding wasn't just about creating a new strategy. It was about creating a new version of myself. I started by wiping everything clean. Every chart template, every indicator, every YouTube strategy that once promised to never lose again. I deleted them all. My goal was clarity, and that meant starting from zero. I returned to the basics: market structure, liquidity, and price behavior. I spent hours replaying charts, candle by candle, watching how price hunted liquidity, manipulated emotions, and then moved in the opposite direction. It was like watching the market breathe: inhale, exhale, trap, release. That's when I began to understand what the smart money traders had been saying all along. The market isn't random. It's designed to extract emotion. But rebuilding wasn't just technical. It was mental, spiritual, and deeply personal.
I knew my old self, the impulsive, emotional, overconfident version, couldn't survive in this new phase. So I began crafting habits that would build the trader I wanted to become. I woke up early, not to trade, but to prepare. I reviewed my rules daily like mantras. Patience is a position. Losses are tuition, not punishment. You don't need to trade every day, just the right days. I learned to measure progress differently, not by how much I made, but by how well I followed my process. If I executed my plan perfectly and still lost, that was a win. If I broke my rules and won, that was a loss. That small shift changed everything. I stopped seeing the market as an opponent. Instead, I treated it like a partner in a long-term relationship, one that required respect, boundaries, and patience. When I felt the urge to overtrade, I would step away. When I caught myself analyzing out of fear, I'd remind myself the market doesn't owe you anything. Slowly, my results began to stabilize. Not because I had found the Holy Grail, but because I had found consistency inside myself. My charts became simpler, my mindset quieter, and my decisions cleaner. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when I realized this truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your discipline. So I built discipline like a muscle. Every day I practiced patience. Every week I reviewed every trade, not to celebrate or regret, but to understand. I built a system that matched my psychology, not someone else's. There were setbacks, of course, days when I reverted to old habits, entered too early, chased losses. But this time I didn't spiral. I corrected, I journaled, and I moved forward. Because now I understood something that took me years to see. Trading mastery isn't about control. It's about surrender. Surrendering to uncertainty, to randomness, to the idea that no matter how good you are, the market can still humble you. And yet, there's peace in that surrender. When you stop fighting the market, you start to flow with it. When you stop chasing money, you start attracting consistency. That was the essence of my rebuilding phase. Not reinventing the market, reinventing myself to align with it. It wasn't glamorous. There were no fireworks, no viral wins, no instant breakthroughs. Just slow, steady growth, the kind that lasts. That's when I realized trading doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most self-aware. And for the first time in my career, I was becoming that trader. One decision, one trade, one disciplined day at a time. It started subtly, a quiet shift that only I could feel. There were no fireworks, no sudden profits, no aha moment, just a deep calm that replaced the noise I used to feel before entering a trade. For the first time, I wasn't chasing, I was waiting. I remember one morning in particular. Euro USD had been consolidating for hours, a range so tight it would have driven the old me insane. Back then, I would have taken 3, maybe 5 trades out of boredom, but this time, I waited. I told myself, let the liquidity build. And when it finally did, when price swept the highs and left a clean footprint on the chart, I entered short. My stop was precise, my target reasonable. And as I watched the trade unfold, I realized something strange. I wasn't emotionally attached to the outcome anymore. It didn't matter whether it won or lost. What mattered is that I followed my plan. And that single shift marked the beginning of my consistency.
Consistency, I learned, doesn't come from winning every trade. It comes from behaving the same way regardless of the outcome. I stopped trying to predict what the market would do. Instead, I focused on recognizing what it was doing right now. Each day, I became a little more objective, a little less reactive. My emotions didn't vanish, but I stopped letting them make decisions for me. And with that calm came clarity. I started tracking my trades meticulously, not just the numbers, but the emotions behind them. What was I feeling before entry? Was it conviction or was it fear disguised as intuition? That awareness alone started filtering out a lot of bad trades. It's funny how, in trading, progress often feels invisible until one day it doesn't. After months of grinding, journaling, and refining, I opened my statement and saw something I hadn't seen in years: a steady equity curve. No massive spikes, no deep drawdowns, just slow, incremental growth. And that felt better than any big win I'd ever had. It wasn't luck, it wasn't a new strategy. It was me, showing up every day, executing with discipline, respecting risk, and letting time do its work. I started to realize that consistency isn't a result, it's a state of being. It's when your thoughts, actions, and expectations finally align. It's when you stop reacting to every tick and start trusting the process. But here's the paradox. When you finally become consistent, you realize how little trading has to do with charts. It's about you, your habits, your impulses, your ability to stay calm in chaos. The market becomes a mirror, reflecting back every weakness you refuse to fix. When I understood that, everything slowed down. I began to see setups days in advance. Not because I could predict the future, but because I was finally patient enough to wait for the story to unfold. There's one line from my trading journal that still sticks with me. Consistency isn't about control. It's about surrendering to your rules. That's the essence of it. Not controlling the outcome, not predicting every move, just surrendering to the process you've built. And that's when things began to click. My win rate stabilized. My drawdowns became manageable. I stopped feeling the need to prove myself with every trade. It wasn't about revenge on the market anymore. It was about respect. Respect for the craft, for the game, for the years it takes to earn your place. Looking back, I think that's the point where I crossed an invisible line, from surviving to evolving, from being a trader who reacts to becoming one who responds, from chasing profit to building mastery. That was the first taste of real freedom, not financial freedom, but emotional freedom. Because once you stop being enslaved by your emotions, you start trading from a place of peace. And that's where the real consistency begins.
It happened on a quiet Thursday, the kind of traders would call boring. No major news, no volatility, just the market breathing softly, waiting. I was sitting in front of my screen with a cup of cold coffee, staring at a setup I'd been tracking for days. It was one of those textbook smart money plays. Liquidity sweep, break of structure, clean retest. Everything aligned perfectly. But here's the truth. The setup wasn't what made that day special. It was my reaction to it. I used to rush in the moment I saw confirmation. Heart racing, mouse hovering, fear whispering, if you don't enter now, you'll miss it. But this time, I just watched. I let the market come to me. When it tapped the level I'd marked 3 days ago, not one pip earlier, not one pip later, I entered calmly, no hesitation, no doubt, no excitement, just execution. And as I watched price unfold exactly as planned, the liquidity grab, the clean structure shift, the follow-through momentum, I felt something I'd never felt before. Detachment. Not joy, not relief, just pure presence. That was my breakthrough moment. Not because I made a huge profit. In fact, it was an average trade, but because it was the first time I realized I was finally trading without ego. For years, I thought success meant mastering the market. Now I understood success meant mastering myself. The charts hadn't changed. I had. After that day, I started seeing trading differently. It was no longer a battle against the market. It was a dialogue. Every candle told a story. Every fake out, every consolidation, every stop hunt, all part of the same rhythm. And when I tuned into that rhythm, I stopped forcing trades. I stopped needing to be right. Instead, I just followed the flow, observing, adapting, letting the market show its hand first. There's a strange peace in that, because once you stop fighting for control, the noise fades. You start noticing things you used to miss, the timing of volume shifts, the subtle wicks of exhaustion, the psychology behind each move. You stop trying to outsmart the market and start understanding it. That's when the compounding began, not just of my capital, but of my confidence. Each good decision reinforced the next one. Each patient trade built more patience. And slowly, trading became less about adrenaline, more about alignment. I remember writing in my journal that night, I no longer trade to prove anything. I trade to express understanding. That shift changed everything. The moment you stop seeking external validation, profits, praise, or calling the top, you start seeing the market for what it truly is, a mirror. And in that reflection, I found peace. A mentor once told me, you don't conquer the market, you become part of it. At the time, I didn't fully get it. Now, it makes perfect sense. Trading isn't about dominating chaos. It's about moving with it, flowing through uncertainty with structure, awareness, and trust. And that's the paradox every trader eventually discovers. When you stop chasing certainty, you finally become consistent. That was my breakthrough moment. Not a single trade, not a strategy, but a shift in consciousness. The day I stopped being a trader who chased and became one who understood.
Looking back now, after 15 years in this game, I've learned that trading doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards character. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't sit still while a trade matures, if you can't take a loss without rage or regret, the market will humble you. Every single time. When I think about all the traders I've met, from retail beginners to fund managers, the ones who survive longest share the same traits: humility, patience, and emotional balance. Not necessarily the highest IQ, but the deepest self-awareness. Because at its core, trading isn't about predicting, it's about responding. Responding to volatility, responding to uncertainty, responding to your own impulses when fear or greed hits. If I had to distill my 15 years of experience into a few lessons, these would be it. 1. Protect your capital before you chase profits. Most traders focus on how to make money. The pros focus on how not to lose it. Capital is more than money. It's your ability to keep playing the game. The day you blow your account is the day your opportunity to learn ends. 2. Your system doesn't need to be perfect. You do. I've seen traders using the simplest price action setups outperform those with the most complex algos. Why? Because consistency doesn't come from your system, it comes from your discipline. If you can execute one plan flawlessly 100 times, you'll beat the trader who keeps switching strategies after every loss. 3. Every loss carries information. It's not just about where the market went wrong, it's about where you did. Your losses are feedback, not punishment. They reveal your blind spots, your impulses, your illusions about control. Ignore them, and you'll repeat the same mistake forever. 4. You can't shortcut time. Everyone wants to skip the struggle, but the struggle is the process. Every failed trade, every sleepless night, every hard lesson, they're not detours, they're the tuition fee of mastery. And the ones who try to skip it end up paying more later. Trading is like climbing a mountain that has no summit. You keep going not because you'll ever win, but because the journey itself transforms you. With every loss, you shed an illusion. With every win, you test your humility. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, you stop trying to conquer the market and start trying to understand yourself. There's an old saying in trading circles: amateurs look for certainty, professionals manage uncertainty. That line never made sense to me when I started, but now I get it. It's about emotional regulation. It's about being okay with not knowing. Because once you accept that the future is unknowable, you stop fighting it. You stop forcing trades, and you finally find peace in probability. When I mentor new traders, I always tell them this: if you can learn to lose well, you'll eventually win big. Because losing well means staying calm, reviewing your decisions, adjusting your plan, and coming back tomorrow. It means being patient enough to let the odds play out over time, not needing every trade to be a winner, but needing yourself to stay disciplined. The irony is, the moment you stop obsessing over making money is the moment you start making it. Trading teaches you to surrender, not to the market, but to the truth. And that truth is simple. You can't control outcomes, only your behavior. Once you truly accept that, you're free.
When you've been in the market long enough, you start to see a pattern, not in price action, but in people. Every new trader begins with the same spark: excitement, curiosity, the hunger for freedom. They look at the charts and imagine a future where they never have to work for anyone again. They chase that dream with the same intensity I once did. And then, reality hits. The market humbles them. They lose money, confidence, even identity. Some quit, some rage. A few stay, bruised but not broken. Those are the ones who eventually make it. I've watched that cycle repeat countless times. And every time I meet a new trader, eyes bright, heart racing, I see a reflection of my younger self. The same impatience, the same illusion of control, the same fear of missing out. That's why I started mentoring, not because I had all the answers, but because I'd made enough mistakes to know what not to do. I tell them, you're not fighting the market, you're fighting yourself. It sounds cliché, but it's true. Once they understand that, their growth begins. I remember one student, let's call him Mark. He came to me after blowing his third account. He was talented, analytical, even obsessed with data. But emotionally, he was fragile. Every red candle felt like an attack. Every missed move felt like failure. One night, after another losing day, he called me and said, "Maybe I'm not built for this." I told him, "Maybe you're not built for who you are right now, but trading has a way of rebuilding you, if you let it." We worked together for months. He stopped overtrading. He started journaling. He began treating the market like a mirror, not an enemy. And one day, he sent me a screenshot. 6 trades, all executed according to plan, modest profits, clean risk management. He said, "For the first time, I don't feel the urge to double down or revenge trade." That message made me smile, because that's what trading really gives you. Not just income, but transformation. You start this journey trying to beat the market, but somewhere along the way, you end up beating your own demons. Now, every time I teach, I tell traders this. Don't aim to be perfect. Aim to be aware. Because awareness is everything. The awareness of your emotions, the awareness of your biases, the awareness of how your decisions ripple through your results. It's not the lack of losses that defines a great trader. It's how they respond to them. A losing day can either destroy your confidence or deepen your understanding. The choice is yours. There's a quiet kind of pride that comes with seeing someone else grow because of your scars. It's not about being their hero. It's about helping them avoid the traps you fell into. And maybe, just maybe, reminding them that this game isn't about luck or genius or even timing. It's about endurance. The market rewards the ones who stay, who survive the storms long enough to see calm again. And that's what I want every trader to understand. You don't need to win today. You just need to still be here tomorrow. Because if you're still here, you're still in the game. And that means your next breakthrough might be one trade away.
After 15 years in the markets, I've come to realize something that I wish someone had told me earlier. Trading is not a destination. It's a lifelong dialogue between you and uncertainty. You never truly arrive. You just learn how to stand steadier while everything around you moves. In the beginning, I thought success meant freedom, financial independence, maybe even recognition. But the deeper I went, the more I understood that trading doesn't give you freedom from the world. It gives you freedom within it. Freedom to make decisions without fear. Freedom to detach your worth from outcomes. Freedom to live without being enslaved by greed or panic. That's what I call emotional sovereignty. It's the real prize, not the cars, not the money, not the fancy setups. Because when you've seen both sides of the market, the euphoria of big wins and the despair of painful losses, you stop chasing validation. You start trading for clarity, for growth, for the simple satisfaction of executing a plan perfectly, even if it only brings in a small profit. That's mastery, not control, but acceptance. When people ask me, what's the secret to trading success? I always smile. There's no secret, only the truth you're willing to face. It's the truth that you will fail. You will doubt yourself. You will question whether you belong here. It's the truth that no mentor, no strategy, no signal will save you from your own emotions. And it's the truth that once you stop running from those emotions and start observing them, the market starts making sense. Because the market is not chaos, it's reflection. It mirrors the human condition in real time: fear, greed, hope, despair, and resilience. Learning to read it is like learning to read yourself. I remember sitting alone one night, charts glowing in the dark, coffee gone cold. My account had taken another hit. I stared at the screen and thought, maybe this isn't for me. But then a strange calm came over me. I realized that the market wasn't punishing me. It was teaching me. Every loss was just tuition, and I was finally ready to learn. That shift changed everything. I stopped looking for shortcuts. I started building systems, refining discipline, and documenting everything. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I became consistent. Not perfect, just consistent enough to last. Now, years later, when I place a trade, it's quiet. No rush of adrenaline, no fear. Just execution. Win or lose, I move on. Because I finally understand trading is not about prediction. It's about preparation. Not about control, but response. Not about chasing certainty, but embracing uncertainty. And when you reach that place, that internal stillness amid external volatility, you realize that the market has given you more than money. It's given you wisdom, patience, perspective. And those are the kinds of returns that compound forever. So if you're watching this and you're somewhere in the middle of your own journey, frustrated, unsure, maybe even thinking about giving up, I want you to remember this. Every trader you admire once stood exactly where you are right now. They felt the same pain, the same confusion, the same burning desire to figure it out. The difference is, they stayed. They kept showing up. They let time do its work. Because consistency is built one small decision at a time. Not when you win, but when you refuse to quit after losing. So stay in the game. Learn from every candle, every mistake, every emotion. One day, you'll look back not at your balance, but at your growth, and realize that the market didn't just make you a trader, it made you whole. That's the legacy.